to Uncomfortable, conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Jess.
Hello, world.
And Alex.
I'm here.
Alex is here. That's good. And we have a very special guest with us today, Nar. Thank you for joining us, Nar.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You're here today to share your story of, living in a refugee camp and fleeing from that and in Bhutan, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So, Nar, why don't you just, for our listeners, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to come today to share about me. So my name is Nar Tamang. I am married. My husband's name is Purva, Pastor Purva. Here we do our fellowship here in the porch. I have 3 beautiful kids, one a baby girl and 2 boys. So we've been here from 2009 till now. So we are celebrating our 16th years of being here next week on Sunday. So.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So cool. So as Eric talked about, most of what we're going to talk about today is just your life and, how God's worked, but also just the realities of being a refugee and moving from, a refugee camp and all that kind of stuff, life in Bhutan. So can you just describe just the early years of your life? Well, for those of us that live in America, never been to Bhutan, don't know Bhutanese culture, what was your life like at a young age? What was the culture like? The tensions or not inside of your home country?
I mean, I was too little. I have very, very little memories that I would remember. I don't know a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, before we moved to, here, not here to Nepal as a refugee, I only know a little bit things about when things were going wrong at the country, when my dad was going back and forth, to take us to a safe place. And one of the things I remember that I wanted to share with you guys today is now I think back and realize why he did that, But he did that out of love, Mm-hmm. So he took us, all of the kids, inside the jungle. And then he made a tent, to save us from the government people. Mm. But not thinking what would that wild animal would do to us. Mm. Oh, wow. When I think of those now, he did that out of love to take care of his family. But when I realize now, that was super dangerous. Mm-hmm. We were in the jungle for weeks, months. How the country was going through a lot of, destruction, sexual harassment, burning the houses, killing people. So, police, all kinds of enforcement coming to a village, destroying the village, burning the village, seeing that it was being a little girl, it was tough.
How old were you? About?
Maybe 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. 4 or 5, I would say.
And you were living in a tent. Then how long were you living in the tent?
So maybe we stayed in the jungle for 3 to 4 months. Okay. And we moved to India, living in someone's houses for a couple months. And then we finally found, my parents. Our back history is all of the Nepali people were taken from Nepal the long time ago to Bhutan. Bhutan wasn't that very developed country. So they wanted to take all these Nepalese people as a workforce to develop their country, construction, making the roads, doing all kinds of farmer stuffs and stuffs like that. Just later, if I have to talk a little bit of story about why we were kicked out of the country was yes, they took all of these Nepali people. I don't know how many numbers was it, my great-grandfathers, So they took them there just for worker, and they promised them at the end to give them all the citizenships, right? So when they took it and everything was going well, all the, development was happening in the country and everything, this was the history. I read it later in refugee camp. So when they took it, so everything was happening right. So when all of these people were getting smarter, getting better, and they were in a high position in work and education and all these stuffs like that, having their own, good houses, and their, how do I say, economy was getting better in Nepali people's lives. And the Bhutan government is like, so these people are smarter, very smart. If I keep them people, and maybe it's not a good idea, we need to figure out a way to just, let them go. And they tried in a different way to kick us out.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and we ended up like, even though we were citizens, and how they make us kick us out, telling us that we need some kind of documentation that you belong here. But probably a lot of people didn't even have us, some of the documents that they promised to give it to them, right? So later, we were out of my parents, my grandparents were out of the country. So, and we traveled to Nepal in a pickup truck.
Wow.
That, how over here we can see that we haul away some of the, all the bad things like, trash or kind of like that. On those kind of truck, we came to Nepal.
Oh, like a trash truck.
Trash truck.
Wow.
So you got to Nepal, and is that where the refugee camp was, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Early 90s, they were already refugees that had started going there, started living there. And the life was so hard. So when we got there, it was already a refugee camp. Just started to, build couple houses, tents were started. So when we got there, it was like, I was a little girl. My brother and I had 3 other sisters. It was like, we were very sad, traveling different places, being a kid. It was hard.
Yeah, you lost your childhood.
Yeah. So.
Do you remember thinking back to that? Did you understand what was happening? Like, you felt sad. Did you realize, like, looking back, you can see, like, I was going to a refugee camp and my life was changing with my family, but did you realize that at the time when you were little?
I mean, I was thinking like, life is going to change, but the way how the refugee camp looked and the way how the life was settled there was very difficult. Seeing people are very sick. There was no food, it was very hot, and living under the tent, under the plastic, if there is a wind come by at the middle of the night, everything will be, blown away. It was hard. So when I think, we were there and having all of those, I mean, many times that happened. So it wasn't easy. Life wasn't easy.
Yeah. How did food happen, or like things like that? Who was taking care of the refugee camp? Was it a government kind of program? But
it was, I think the sponsor was a UNHCR.
Okay.
Like I have every time I have seen on the, they will bring any kind of food, or the food truck that would come would written UNHCR.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. And so what was food like, or just daily life? What did it look like living in the outside of the weather and, those types of things?
I mean, if I have to talk food wise, how do we say 5 kg of rice would be? How do we, bring it down to
like ounces
or
yeah.
lbs.
Yeah.
That much of rice, one person could, keep it for 15 days.
So it's about 176 ounces
Yes.
of rice.
15 days.
15 days.
Wow.
And just rice.
Just rice and maybe lentils. And they have like a cup of lentils. And, every week they will give you a couple potatoes, the bananas that you could make make it as a vegetable. Mm-hmm. So there was no meat. We never saw any meat.
Wow.
So.
And what of your family was with you at the camp? Was everyone with you there, or were you alone sometimes?
No,
or-
like every day we will be together. Like our life was pretty tough. Like we have to be in certain place only. We were not supposed to get out of the area that they had given to us. If we get out of there and then go to our boundaries, we would be, would not be treated right.
Okay.
So mostly with the family, unless parents are doing something or kids are going to school. Those are the only time that you are not together. So,
Yeah. Did your family have like any kind of relationship with God, or is like you're being shaped at this young age? Are you thinking like, is there a God? How did this happen to me? Or was that just so normal that you didn't care? Like, what was your family's relationship with religion or God at that point?
I mean, at that point, I wasn't very aware of, Jesus or anything. My parents were a very typical Hindu family.
Okay.
Very, very, my mom and dad were very, like, how do I say, they were very into Hinduism. So they knew, like, looking at my parents, like, there is a God, but that was, like, that's how we believed, That's how I believed, like, they used to worship. They used to do some kind of, you worship in the morning. And it was different, but later I figured out that was a Hinduism when I came to know Jesus. So,
Gotcha.
How long were you in the refugee camp?
wow, that's a pretty good question. Like, I would say 15 to 17 years.
Okay.
Wow.
So a lot of your growing up
Yeah, my
was
childhood.
spent here.
My childhood, I would say my teenager and my, youths, I grew up in refugee camp, everything.
And I just think about like how much we learn about our environment and our identity during that time, just in any kid's life. How did that experience shape your environment, your identity, your security growing up?
I mean, how do I really,
I know that's a huge question of like,
I know it is. I mean, I would say there was no any identity in being a refugee camp. You were a refugee. Everybody look at you like, if I have to talk about right now, it kind of makes me think of like, we were actually taken from Nepal, right? Long time. I shared this story earlier. So when we get back to the country, we should be treated right? But we weren't treated right either when we get back. We were treated so differently. They would call us refugee, like we were not worthy, we are not a good people, sometimes we were called names. It was hard, and we didn't have anything. We couldn't say anything back to them because we were not the real original people of Nepal, because we went back to Bhutan and came back as a refugee. That was hard. That was, I would say there was no any identity. Like experience-wise, lot of emotion,
yeah.
lot of, heartbroken, being treated by that different words and actions. It was hurtful.
Yeah, like almost unhuman.
Yeah,
unhumane.
unhuman. We
Yeah.
were not they didn't even want us. They didn't even want to have any relationship or wanted to talk to us. We were totally treated differently.
Wow.
So,
Can you tell us a little bit about the first time you heard about Jesus and what that experience was, and maybe give us a time frame of when, like, where were you still?
like,
Were you outside of the camp or?
no, we were still in the camp. We had a family. They live in Pennsylvania now. I'm so thankful to that family. Like, they were like kids like me. They were very good Christians. I saw them, how they pray, how they went to church, how they sing. I was very connected to them because of singing. When I was a little girl, I always wanted to sing, and they had such a beautiful, songs that they sing every day. And they had 6 girls in the house, and they love each other. They were together each other. Their house was super clean and nice, even though we were in refugee camp, But they were total different people. When I looked at them every day, it was like, wow, So I want to know them. So I started talking to them, going to school. One of the girls was going to school with me, even in refugee camp. So we got a good friendship and started going to them. And I used to go with them to Sunday school and Sunday school program, even in refugee camp. And so that's how I started knowing the Lord. So when my parents were totally against it. You know, they were not happy that I hang out with them, that I go with them. I mean, a couple of times I was beaten up a couple of times pretty badly that, not following what my parents were doing. It was pretty hard. But that's how I, at my early point of knowing Jesus that's how those friendships brought me together.
Yeah. So in some ways, it was through the music.
Yes,
Do you
music,
remember
yes.
any of the songs that they sang?
I do remember still, but just I always sing that song, and I tell my husband, this is the song that catch me at the beginning. The song talks about God, why you choose me, that you put yourself on the cross. So that was a pretty good song that I was like, what is this all about? Like, why these people are super good, super nice than other people? Why these people are so different than other neighborhood?
Wow.
So that kind of it's real touchy,
Yeah.
seeing them different than, we live every day in a neighborhood together, and one neighbor is so nice and so good and so loving and caring for you, and you see the other person doesn't really, that kind of really catch my heart.
Yeah. And so even beginning to follow Jesus or have a relationship with him cost you, like, so your family wasn't happy, you're beaten, because of this. And so, like, I think for me, that's hard to even fathom. Like, what's going through your mind as you're like, okay, do I want to follow Jesus or follow my family? And this is costing me something. Like, it's costing pain. And
It was pretty tough at the beginning. When I like talking about beating up, it was a New Year Eve. Like, over there, they don't, at that moment, I think this group of people didn't really celebrate Christmas.
Okay.
And so they only celebrate New Year Eve, and they sing and, pray all night until 12 at midnight, right? So I was with them. So I was with them all day, helping them, being with them. And I was being into Sunday school so many times. I had got so many points of saying memory verses, out of nowhere. And then, so I went with them that night. So I had a, all this, I wanted this Bible so bad. So I went to this New Year Eve, and I stayed with them. And that night also there was a Bible verse competition, So I did won it. So I got the Bible, the New Testament.
Won the Bible verse
yes.
competition.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I got it. But when I got home, I was gone for all night, right? So my parents were not happy. So I had to tell them where I was. So I didn't lie. I told them the truth that I was with my friends at their fellowship, and I was there, and this and this and this. So they were not happy. So that was a very bad day that I got really beaten up by my dad. So that's how life started. But even though that was a starting point, still, I think I was there for just not knowing Jesus, but at the beginning of the point is like just trying to know about music, trying to do things they were doing, their program. All I was doing was like, outside of the world, like think that I was not super connected with God. It was just wanted to be friends with them and do things and get, and then later
that
when
was a connection.
everybody had a Bible, and I wanted that myself too so bad. I think I just wanted that so bad. It's like everybody had one. So,
yeah.
So your husband, Purva, you mentioned he's a pastor now. Where did he come into your story in all of this?
oh,
Was it long after you got this Bible, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely yes.
Okay.
Actually, so that was like in a school timing.
Okay.
High school timing that I got this Bible. I got beaten up, all kinds of things, and then later. Once I was done with my high school and we got married, my husband and I, and our story is pretty sad too. Like, my husband is if I have to bring up this, my husband was from a high caste guy, and I was a low caste girl,
Okay.
So
And
help us understand what that
caste
means. That
system.
don't understand
meaning
the
is
caste
like
system.
that is like I could break it down this. High caste people in Nepali culture is like the low caste, like high caste and low caste is distinguished like this. In high caste people house, we cannot enter their house. They will not eat anything we touch. We cannot enter in their house. We are not allowed to sit together, and you have to be outside. If they give you a cup of water or a glass of water, and you have to wash yourself and put it outside. That's how it was. But we knew each other from school, high school. We were in love together for so long period of time. So as soon as we were done with high school and then we got married, right? It was not a, official marriage. We just started living together. Back home, if you start, a girl and a man and a woman still start living together, that's a marriage. It's not like here.
Yeah.
So that's a marriage. That you have to be in a marriage. That's how it works. So when we started living together, so there was so many things that happened, like his side of the family. I mean, I don't want to blame them that they did it, but their society, the people who fall on that category, were giving his family a hard time that he got a low caste girl, then he is not allowed to come to this house, and so life was hard at that time. At that moment, we were going through so many things, and so stressful, crying, all those kind of things. And then later, there was once we got married. And after 9 or 10 months later, that I was pregnant with my first one. So there was no place to live. So one of the Christian family, even in a refugee camp, give us a space to stay with that place was empty. So we went in there and make that place more better, and we started staying there. But we were not even we were not following God or not going to any fellowship or anything else. The story that I told you, or that I told you guys earlier, was like from the beginning when I was in school. Mm-hmm. So that at that time, I have even forgotten about God, about my friendship and everything, because my life had changed. Married and being pregnant and all kinds of stress. Being married to a high caste, guy. Being a low caste girl, treated very poorly. It was hard. So it's stressful. So later, when my husband went to work leaving me in that place when he went to work to India in a construction site. So over here, we were in a totally different place. He was in India, I was in Nepal in a refugee camp. So this family was talking to me every day about God. And I can see how different, because nobody wanted, right? But they wanted us. Nobody wanted to give us space to go into their house. Even his own family, his own community didn't accept him and I, but they did it, They help us. I'm sorry. So when that happened, when I see them caring for us, like how God loves us, the love of the people, that they love us so much, like I don't know why they give us a space to stay in their place. So that time I didn't understand. My family were still, they were worried about, I might gonna turn into Christian, or I might gonna follow Jesus, or my daughter would probably gonna, she will probably transform me into Christianity. But that time I didn't have no idea. So later, when my husband was out, I was there. So I started going to church with this family. So when I went to start going to church with this family, I had no idea. And then Pastor Prabhu was going to church in India too. So one day I was in a house fellowship, in a Kaddish meeting fellowship. So I was coming and I heard, hey, your husband has arrived already in I know from the neighborhood. And I was like, I heard that way too far from the house, and because when he comes, that everybody would see, right? So I was like, oh my goodness, now I'm not supposed to, what I'm going to say to him, where am I? So I had my Bible in my bag, and then I kept that Bible in bag in someone's house, because that way he would not know.
You're hiding it from him. Yeah, you're worried.
Hiding from him. Yeah, I was worried because his parents were a pure Buddhist.
Wow.
He came from a very pure Buddhist family, and he had I had no any thoughts that he would be a Christian, he would accept Jesus. I was so worried, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen now? How am I gonna tell him this? How am I gonna hide this stuff? So I came home, and then putting these Bibles and stuff somewhere else, my whole backpack in someone's house. I came home, and he was talking. And in the evening we talk, and he was like, I had to say one thing to you, Nar. And I say, I do have one thing to talk to you too. So he said, go ahead and say it. So I said, I started going to church. And he said, I started going to church too.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of bring us together.
Wow.
So
Wow.
And how long had you been apart at that point from your husband? How long was he away before?
So that happened like when we moved to this new place where these people welcome us. I was pregnant, so I had a baby in that house. When we had the baby, in 22 days he went out to India to work and take care of the family. So
Okay.
we were probably 3 to 4 months. We were not
So you
together.
hadn't seen him, and so you both found Jesus
Yeah.
separately.
Separately.
Different countries.
That's-
Different countries, yeah,
Yeah.
total different countries. So, and then
That's incredible.
when he told me, and when I told him that, hey, I'm sorry, there was no way to communicate at all, no phones,
Yeah.
there was no social media. Even though if it was, how would we would be able to afford a phone, right?
Yeah.
There was no any way to do that, and nothing. And if you wanted to write a letter, where do you wanted to send a letter at? You even don't have that, ability to do that. So it was like without any contact or anything,
Yeah.
with faith that you stay and wait for your husband. That's what happened. So that's how we got to know each other. Like, oh, I'm going to church and I want to tell you this. And he says that, oh, I accepted Jesus too. I just wanted to let you know that, So we were kind of together to know about that. That's how it started.
That's so-
really
cool.
like knowing Jesus was that at that point.
Yeah.
Through seeing then, how God's people, they treated us so well when on other side, his own family and other people,
Yeah.
like his community, didn't want me.
I know
So-
when you were feeling a little emotional earlier, I'm like, man, like just feeling that it is so true when we experience Jesus, like we can learn like the details and we can read the Bible, but it's just that emotional connection, that feeling of like being with people and experiencing God's love and experiencing his tenderness through people. It's so beautiful.
Yes, it is. Yes. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the second thing that really touched me. Like, like when nobody wanted us, when everybody was, out of our way, and there were people who wanted to help us and give us a place to stay and help us, and in our need. So
Yeah.
that was
So-
very nice of him.
It was. So how did the opportunity then come for you to come to the United States? Like, what was that process like? Was that shortly after he came back from India and you had
It didn't
baby, or-
happen right away. So when Pastor Ruba came, and then I sent him, like, we talked together. We were both very bold type of couples. We
Yeah.
want to know more. We want to explore more about God. We want to know more about him. And so I sent him, like, he went to one of the training in India, like a disciple trip training for India for 1 month. So he came back, and then he sent me back. So, my husband is the type of person that he doesn't think that he only needs to know all the things. He wants women should know more too. Women should learn more too. He's a type of person like that. Right now, like, if I have to talk about the current moment of our church right now, the experience, like a lot of churches think that women can't preach, right? Like, I have seen that. But my husband doesn't have that. Like he's a pastor, our leaderships, everybody says, they come to a point that even from Genesis, that God talks about, a helper, right? It's like, we need a helper, but we never put that helper on, bring that helper on the side of us. We always try to put it behind the scene. My husband believes that we need to let the women to speak at the church too. But over here, I'm scheduled for the month. Like, I'm already scheduled every time that when they have a list of speakers, I'm scheduled all the time. And he encouraged, like, I encourage other women's, other pastors' wife to come together too, Like, my husband believes that. So he sent me on a training after he came back. We kind of did a back and forth training. But the last time he went on a training there was a training named BTCB, Bible Training Center for Pastors.
Okay.
So when he did that, after he was done with that, so it was an opportunity that for us, I wouldn't say it an opportunity, but it was God, that there is a organization called IOM, International Migration Organization. So those people were in refugee camp where we were. So they had, every place had that organization set up down there. So we had to go register your name and then figure it out. They will figure it out which country they're going to send it to you. So it had a long process that you have to go through, long process, medical, all kinds of things. They're going to figure it out whether you are a real refugee or not. Where were you born in Bhutan? Which city? Which village or whatever. They have to figure out everything and do all kinds of things. And then we've been through all of that. My parents weren't very happy when I was ready to come to America, So they were like, my mom would cry every day, like she's going out of nowhere. She didn't even tell us that she was going to go. But I knew that if God took care of us all of this time, he's going to take care of us there too. Mm-hmm. So I was from his side of the family and my side of the family, I was the first person to come to America in 2009 after all the process being done. So we were here legally through IOM. International Migration for Organization. So,
where did you come to Omaha, or where did you get resettled at originally?
Originally, yes, in Omaha.
Okay.
I still remember the day. It was February. It was like I had for back home, that jacket was pretty warm and nice, right? So when I got to Omaha Airport and it was still February, snowing everywhere, and I would remember, they were the former, members of Christ community. Their name was Lori Kaiser and Mark Kaiser.
Oh, yeah.
So when they came to the airport and they're like, Namaste, I was like, oh my, out of nowhere, how this man knows a Nepali word, right? Uh-huh. So, and then they gave us a jacket. They've thought that was very nice of them, gave us a jacket, welcome us. So it started in Omaha, actually, okay. February of 2009.
2009.
So that was very different, shocking. What plane ride did I just take?
Yeah, that's what happened. And if I have to say the beginning impression of being in Omaha that time, like being here was like, we used to live in a Northwest Radial Highway apartment, and staying upstairs, looking down there, I can only see cars, no people. Mm-hmm. I didn't see no person because I didn't realize it was so cold. How could people be out walking, right? Yeah. Had no experience. So I was like, when I was talking to my mom after a couple of days, getting someone's phone to call my mom, I told my mom that, Mom, you should never come to this country because I don't see no people walking. I can only see cars.
Oh,
yeah.
That was my first experience and being here when I was.
Hopefully you saw a few more people walking once it got warmer.
Yeah, later, like April, May, June, kind of, yeah. So.
That's good. All right. So what was, how long had you been believers at this point? It's 2009. Has it been several years or just a couple years or?
I would say 2006.
Okay.
From 2006 to 2009 was like 2005 to 2006. 4 years.
Okay.
4 or 5 years. So by that time, my husband was already helping one of the pastors back home. So he was kind of like a co-pastoring to him. He was like an assistant pastor there to help him. Okay. So when we got here in Omaha, Mark and Lori already knew that, Furba is kind of like a co-pastoring there. So that was kind of the way how they knew us.
Okay.
So besides the cold and only seeing cars, what were just some of the practical challenges of moving across the world, a new culture, language barrier, cultural barrier? What were just some of the initial challenges?
There were many.
Yeah.
Definitely language.
Yeah.
The way how I'm speaking today, the language, English, is totally where I was. I'm thankful that I learned all of this, and I praise God for that. At the beginning, it was hard. Mm-hmm. You can sense and see that how we come from different countries. When you run into each other, we can see our action in our dialogues when we talk. You're gonna figure it out. Is he from India? The way of that was different. I didn't understand. I knew English a little bit. Even in refugee camp, our education was good. I would say that good. Everything was in English, not in Nepali. It was good. But when I got here, the way of pronunciation, the word, it was tough to understand, especially language, food, getting a right food on right time. We figured out the right food. The food was here, but we didn't know what our food looks like, We figured out in 6 months. And riding, especially transportation, very hard. Very, very hard getting to a medical appointment. Not knowing the language, how to, get connected with the doctors, communicate with the doctors. And the challenges were like, for an example, when you come to here as a refugee, at the beginning, the government will give you assistance for the time being until you find a job, right? Like food stamps, Medicaid, kind of like that. If you don't, because of the language barrier, they will send us a letter, and if you don't turn in the letters back, whatever they have asked you for, and if you don't do that, you will be cut off from the program. So that was most challenging, actually.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. So those are the things, and food, not knowing the language, not getting to know people. It was hard.
Wow.
And then that was all part of your immigration process.
Yes.
Then, and then how long did that take from 2009 till when? I mean, to where you were in America, was that a long process to be fully immigrated, or?
Oh, I think that took us a year, year and a half, to fully have all our process done. They had so many certain processes that you have to go through, like how the life in America is, what kind of job you should be looking for, safety-wise. They will train all of it for you, like how to be safety and how to use a bathroom, all kinds of things they will train you. And then they train us, like they have all kinds of things there to show us what it looked like. So even though we had all of this training, didn't really, it did help us a little bit, but you experiencing yourself physically, it varies.
Yeah.
It has a big difference. So it was.
Yeah, and you probably have to go through all those processes to be able to get a driver's license and to do all of those one step at a time to kind of have a normal life.
Figuring out, all things, and especially finding a job was a pretty tough situation that time,
What led to that being a difficult thing? Just skill-wise, labor, hiring, or what made it difficult to find a job?
When I'm thankful actually for Christ community. There were former members from Christ community whose name were Bob DeFord and Judy DeFord.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent me here to make me comfortable. They sent me to Midland Lutheran College, Fremont, for my CNA.
Wow.
So they sponsor me. They help me all of my education, all of my CNA trainings, education fee, all my dress fee and everything, my books and everything they paid for me, for everything.
Wow.
Once I was done with training and everything, I passed the state exam and state skill competency test, both of them. I passed it. A lot of people failed that time, but out of nowhere, I passed. And I was here only 3 months.
Wow. And you have babies.
Yeah, and I had a 6-year-old with me. So I passed, but I had no car, nothing, right? So there is a nursing home in Radial Highway on Maple.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live in Radial Highway. I wanted to go work there walking, but I applied so many times and didn't get it.
Yeah. Do you think that was because of your culture, language difference? Do you
Probably,
think it was?
Maybe because of that. And the reason that not only I had the CNA experience, like then did a training here, a lot of time they're going to ask experience, how many places you have worked in nursing homes. They all the time over here is like, we get a job out of experience.
Yeah.
But a lot of time, companies should realize is like, or places should realize is like, it's not only experience. You give them an opportunity and they will have an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but back home, being in a refugee camp, I was a HIV/AIDS counselor, working in a medical field.
Okay, so you had experience.
I had experience. Mm-hmm. I put everything in there in my resume, like out of nowhere. I don't know how I made that resume at that time. I even didn't know any English. Yeah. Probably mine was very bad. That's why probably they never called me.
Yeah.
So
wow.
that I didn't get the job, and I ended up working in a meat packaging plant. That's how my life changed from medical field to where I'm a food safety now.
Oh, you're in food safety now. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
So what is it that you think Americans misunderstand about the refugee experience? Do you think, I mean, we can only a lot of times understand what, you can tell us something and we can hear it, but what do we maybe, without experiencing it, what do we misunderstand?
like I said earlier, a lot of time they haven't walked our shoes. And they haven't been through our life. Like if I tell them 100 times, like also it is difficult to experience what I have experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, they will like get to know them more. Try to know their stories. A lot of time we think like, like when we see them, like we just how do we say, we just distinguish, or we just look at them outside of the cover and try to distinguish who that person is and try to tell them like right out of our head, not thinking inside like what that person has been through. We just treat them differently.
Yeah.
That's like treating them differently, thinking like even there is a word, think before you say something, right? Do something. I think a lot of time the American people had to think like, I want to know this person. I mean, there are people that are strangers that a lot of time we have taught our kids like not to talk to a stranger, or, not to talk to the person that you don't know. But if you knew that person is refugee, then if you want to know that person, talk to them, try to know them better, make a friendship. Like for an example, if we are like random people, they would not know. But if we are connected, like Christ Community, us, New Life Nepali Church is like, family. If you like a lot of time, if you want to know that person, talk to, have a relationship, make a friendship, invite on a dinner or talk, figure it out, like, go on a coffee, talk to them, figure out, get to know each other more. A lot of time we misunderstand, like, I don't know that person. Do I really want to talk to them? Communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had mentioned when we were talking before we started recording that in the food safety world that you work in, that you've experienced some prejudice there when you passed an exam and a coworker questioned you on how you did it.
A lot of time they misunderstood. It's like like I would say out of my experience that, like I told you guys earlier, like when I got this job as a USDA, USDA World, and when I got a promotion, there is a steps that you get a promotion. So when I got a promotion, and I get a comment saying like, you people come to this country and took our job. That was pretty hurtful, And then out of nowhere, out of that also, he wasn't very satisfied after saying that. So taking 1 month of a class, I mean, now it's 1 month that a lot of people get a time to prepare more. But that time, it was a COVID time. 2020 was a COVID time. So that time, we had only virtual class 2 weeks, and you have to give a test. Now they have break it down to 2 times test at one time. And I passed the test and had a comment again saying like, how could you pass that test? Did you do something? Did you get a test questions ahead of your test?
Wow.
That was pretty hurtful, getting a comment like that.
Describe that, because I think I've never heard that phrase, but I've heard people say it in our culture, like the feeling of like someone saying, you people come here, you take our jobs. Like how do you feel? Like you've put in the work, you've done these things, like what's going through your mind as somebody says something hurtful like that without getting to know you, without understanding your story?
I mean, when they say you people, it hurts us more. Like it sounded like we are inhuman. We are not. We don't even exist. If we had exist, they would know. They would get to know. And like for an example, like sometimes I have got a comment saying like, because you got that opportunity because you are minority, you are minor.
Oh yeah.
Because they just gave it to you.
Yeah.
It's not that. Like, yes, they could just give it to me, but if I don't pass the test that they have set it a rules, then I would not get that job, right?
Yeah. You
But,
earned it.
I earned it. I work hard on it. I put my effort. Like being a mom, being a pastor's wife, have already a big responsibilities, and taking a class, online class, and taking a full-time job and getting all this experience and taking all those classes, trying to be promoted and get a job and, take classes, take tests, and you pass it. It is a huge responsibility that you put yourself into work. You wanted that. You want to do it. You earned it. I work hard to get that job.
Yeah.
Right? But somebody comments you like, you people come to our country and take our jobs. Like, I didn't take the job. I took the opportunity that this country gave it to me. Didn't it? Isn't that true, right?
Yeah.
So
That's so good. So obviously you've talked a little bit about your story, about how Christians and churches have helped, Christ Community Church, but others. What are ways that, as you look at just broadly in America, that churches you feel like should learn more about refugees, should be able to step up and help empower people in your situation? Because you've been given those opportunities because people were faithful with that. So how would you encourage other churches to take this opportunity?
I mean, like, I wanted to start with the Word of God. Like John 15:34 and 35 says, it's in New Testament, and if we compare the verse in Old Testament on Matthew, the book of Matthew say, love your neighbor as yourself. But when we come to New Testament and John, it says, loved one another as I loved you.
Yeah.
There's a big difference in between them. So when I realized that verse, I had an opportunity to preach about this verse a couple of weeks ago at our church. So when we talk about this, like when you bring up about the church thing that the church could help, like it doesn't matter that you have to bring them food or clothes or things like materialistic things in their life, but getting to know them, listening to their stories, try to know their story more, giving them some time, communicating with them, try to know them more, and then all these things will be built later. Try to know them more, and give them some time. And loving, the most important thing is to love, like not to judge.
That's so good.
That also makes me just think about like building empathy. Like that's something that is so needed as we have this conversation. And as someone who has never experienced displacement like you have, and many of us haven't, how can we build more empathy?
Like being in a different parts of the world is totally different for me. Coming to this country was a totally, at first couple months was a nightmare, like, no food. And that at that time I was having a very bad toothache, right? So I didn't know where to go and places like that, where to go and get a help on this and stuff like that. Being in this situation, that displacement to a new place and how to have empathy on them, like I've been saying, is like, a lot of people don't know our stories.
Yeah.
They have no idea what we've been through and gone through. So it's kind of crazy. So getting to know them, helping them, like I was talking earlier, to all of you, like, if you really wanted to have an experience of a refugee, we should go on a mission trip to Nepal. There's still a place that we could know more, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is hard, like helping them, being with them, getting to know them. I have been saying this over and over. Like, I think a lot of time to getting to know them and giving them opportunity, and know them better. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, like for my son, he was born here.
So he never experienced
refugee life. So he would complain like, even though nowadays kids have their own phone, iPad, stuff like that, all kinds of games that they wanted to play, they wanted to experience their life, it has ease and comfort. They don't have any experience how I have been through, and my husband, like, he had no idea. So, going to a good Christian school, like still complaining like, this is not good, this is not right, this is this. So last September, I was able to take him to back home so he could see a difference how people in refugee camp lived. And not only in refugee camp, normal people in different parts of the village in Nepal and India, that he had seen that how bad it is. Not having a slipper on their foot, they have a short and they don't have a t-shirt on the top, people walking naked, kids who are walking naked. So, that he can see they don't have good food, like they don't have phones, no internet, nothing. There were a couple kids that we have a school in Cornerstone, India. There's a school that, I am collaborated working with Dr. Strock from Cornerstone, Bellevue. So there is a school in India. So when I took my son over there, so he could see most of the kids in that school, and I would say the person who is running the school has their kids like my son is. They don't have phones. Mm-hmm. They don't have all kinds of good clothes or shoes, branded shoes. They don't have none of those. Mm-hmm. So when my son saw that, so when he went, he saw all of that how much, a comfort he is in. So when he came back, so he has stopped complaining, and he's thankful for what God has done in his life. And, he had changed a lot. Like I was saying earlier, that he started even reading the book, A Purpose-Driven Life. And
wow.
And he has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that perspective is powerful, because even that's your own son who came from you, but still doesn't understand even what you've been through until he can see it. Mm-hmm. That's so powerful.
I think too, just you sharing reminds me that building empathy does not have to be complicated. It's as simple as making eye contact with somebody or just noticing somebody and having a conversation, pausing and listening to a story. And I think it's such a miss if we listen to a story like yours today and we don't walk away having more compassion and building that into our lives and just noticing people around us. So I'm so thankful that you shared. And I think that's just a good way that we can just apply basic empathy of just like, I see you.
Yeah.
I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm not going to ignore you when I pass you on the street,
Yeah. Inviting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's the Bible tells us to welcome the stranger. And I think as Americans, it's so helpful to hear stories like yours, because it does help us build empathy, and it can help us realize that those decisions we make, that sometimes we align ourselves with whether it's political decisions or the decisions we make in the voting booth, or it's just conversations that we have and we don't really know anything about what we're talking about. We just repeat what we've heard, and we don't realize how impactful decisions that are made in government and things like that can affect the lives of people that are immigrating into this country. And so I think to hear your story is so powerful, because people can have a new appreciation for the work you put in, the effort you put in, and that it's not just some sort of a free ride or anything like that. You've earned your place here. And I think that's just awesome. And I think we're all really appreciative that you came in and were willing to share this story, because it's really good. I think we'll go ahead and wrap things up. But if you have anything else you'd like to say at the end here, you've shared so much, but I want to give you just a moment. If there's anything you'd like to say before you leave.
Very much thankful for Christ community. Actually, a good experience from the beginning itself. So I want to talk a little bit about how when I came here, when our family was here, how they have, make our apartment beautifully taken care of before we arrive, arrange everything and put everything in place, and put the things that we needed for our arrival, and welcoming into our new apartment made it very welcoming, and they had done all kinds of good things for Christ community members and pastors and everybody that we, Pastor Purba and I are very thankful that, and later a lot of families had been helped by Christ community too, and everybody knows, and this is our home. This is our, like Christ community is our like a parents, I would say, that has been connected from the beginning, and we are super thankful, and how God led us together to be the partnership today, and how God has worked together, and I'm very thankful that I got an opportunity to share about all of this. Sorry, I make everybody a little bit emotional earlier. And it kind of like, I was thinking, there were some of the questions that are answers that I wanted to talk, and I probably would have cried a lot. So God worked through it. He gave me that, encouragement from my heart that not to cry more. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and talk and share my story.
Yeah.
Thank you so
beautiful.
much.
Thank you for doing it. We
So if someone
appreciate
wants to experience new life, your church, or they want to hear you sing, I hear you're quite a singer, Eva told me. How would they be able to like go over there? When do you guys meet? I know you meet in the porch, or are
Yes.
people welcome to? It'd probably be very different than what they're used to, but what does that look like?
I would say like we start at 10:30 in the morning. Everybody is welcome, and now you guys know me,
Yeah.
and Eva knows me and my husband very, very well.
Yeah.
And I mean, Pastor Mark, when we do some kind of program, he always calls me and Pastor Ruben, hey, they're the king and queen of this program. You know,
Yeah.
He always says that. So anybody wants to know our community people or our culture or wanted to visit New Life, maybe get with you guys.
Yeah, we'll let you
know.
and then
That's good.
Eva,
Reach out to us.
Yeah.
and just
Connect with you.
connect with us. Anything you guys wanted to know. And this week we're celebrating Sunday. They can come and enjoy our food.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks again, Nar. Appreciate your time. And thanks for everybody who's listening. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to us via email by sending us an email to podcast@cccomaha.org, or reach out to us on social media on Instagram and TikTok at CCC Ome Podcast, or you can leave us a voicemail at 402-885-9930. But until next time, we'll talk to you then.